Penrith and South clash tonight on Sunday Night Football at 7:30, 60 minutes. Then a spellbinding movie premiere. Bonnie Bedelia stars in Judicial Consent.
With Mike London and Samantha Kume, this is National 9 News.
Bizarre twist in the Darwin shooting that injured 4 police.
Arson attack as Molotov cocktails set alight a Brisbane home.
Final preparations for tomorrow night's Origin clash. Good evening.
Good evening.
After yesterday's huge pro-gun rallies, more than 30,000 people have taken to the streets in 3 capital cities to support the tough new laws. In Sydney, Prime Minister Howard again said he will not bow to pressure from the gun lobby.
When it comes to guns, it's clear community feeling continues to smoulder. Undeterred by yesterday's massive march by gun owners in Melbourne, today up to 30,000 anti-gun lobbyists rallied in support of tougher gun laws.
There will be no going back on gun control.
Despite threats of a political backlash from gun owners, there was this rare show of unity as Mr Reith embraced Labor MP Barry Jones and Democrat Senator Sid Spindler in anti-gun support. Prime Minister Howard also vowed to carry through his promise for gun restrictions.
And the gun lobby has become too powerful and politicians are intimidated out of doing anything. I'm determined that that will not happen in this country.
In Sydney, 2,000 North Shore residents applauded the government's stand at an anti-gun rally, led by the doctor who experienced firsthand the legacy of the Port Arthur tragedy, the head of the Royal Hobart Hospital's medical team.
I would say to you that the Armalite, the SSK and the repeat action shotgun just have absolutely no place in our society.
Despite being adopted nationally, the success of the tough new gun laws depends on consensus from each of the state and territory governments. The anti-gun movement urging people to lobby their local members to ensure the legislation is passed. But shooters were also keeping up their fight, 7,500 protesting in Adelaide. And in Kalgoorlie, Independent MP Graham Campbell launched a new political party to represent gun owners.
I'd expect to get 50,000 members in the first 3 months.
Fleur Bitcon, National 9 News.
There's been a bizarre twist to yesterday's story on the shooting spree in Darwin. It's been revealed that the man facing 7 attempted murder charges went to school with Martin Bryant, the man accused of the Port Arthur massacre.
The gunfire and sirens.
Not safe! Let's go. Get out! Not safe!
The procession of bloodied victims and stunned survivors.
We didn't know if the next bullet was going to be us.
In Darwin, a sickening echo of the Port Arthur massacre a month ago. A darker, even more bizarre link emerging with the arrest of 23-year-old Dion Gary Yost. Like the man held for the Tasmanian massacre, Yost grew up in Hobart. Stranger still, he lived for a time less than a block from Martin Bryant and went to the same school, Newtown Boys High. But there, locals say, the similarities end.
He was not a violent person. He was a very happy-go-lucky boy.
What provoked Yost's shotgun rampage still is not known. Out of character, according to friends, although he is believed to have carried a grudge against the system.
He's always sort of a person that didn't really like harming people, but he was just against cops.
He shot and wounded 4 police yesterday and a civilian before being disabled by a police bullet and a stun grenade. One of the officers, a female, is still in a serious condition with chest wounds. The civilian serious but stable in intensive care.
There's nothing at this stage of our inquiry that leads us to believe that by speaking to police in Tasmania will assist us.
Yost himself remains under guard in hospital, still to be interviewed by police. John Collis, National 9 News.
Police are hunting an arsonist after homemade bombs were thrown at a house at Mount Gravatt early today. The lone resident, a 31-year-old man, escaped with only cuts.
The explosion shortly after 2 a.m. woke most of Omega Street and sent a flurry of calls to the fire service. Firefighters arrived to find Molotov cocktails had been thrown through the back window of a car in the driveway and in the front of the house. Inside, a male occupant. He managed to kick his way through a glass door to safety and was taken to hospital with minor cuts. The blaze was quickly contained, limiting damage to the front of the house. The car was gutted. Detectives believe the homeowner may know the bomber. They're following a lead. And police are investigating whether vehicles involved in a 5-car pile-up last night on the Southeast Freeway were racing at the time. One driver sustained serious injury. 2 others were also taken to hospital. Witnesses have told police at least 2 of the 5 cars appeared to be speeding side by side before one lost control. Michael Lyons, National 9 News.
An angry meeting of Logan residents today vowed to fight on against the government's proposed upgrading of the Pacific Highway. They plan to widen the highway to 8 lanes. It will mean the resumption of scores of homes. Those affected claim the government hasn't consulted them.
And we have to stand together and let this government know that we don't want the 8 lanes.
You're told nothing, you're treated like mushrooms, and the first knock you hear is the knock of the bulldozer driver on the front door.
There was a hot reception for local state member Liberal Luke Woolmer.
You've got no mandate. Mrs Cunningham gives you your mandate.
They plan to march on Parliament.
I'd like to respond.
The federal government has stepped up the pressure on the banks to cut interest rates. Prime Minister Howard and Treasurer Costello say it's the only way to relieve the financial pressure affecting many Australian families.
The Prime Minister was in a chilly Sydney warehouse to launch the Smith family's appeal for money to help needy Australians through the winter months. It was also a chance for Mr Howard to commend the Commonwealth Bank's cut in home loan interest rates.
Nothing is more likely to take the financial pressure off the generality of Australian families more than a cut in housing interest rates.
And he lost no time in stepping up the pressure.
But that is how a competitive market should operate. I hope other banks follow.
And just in case that message wasn't getting through to the other big lenders, Treasurer Peter Costello got into the act.
Red-hot competition means the possibility for lower interest rates, and for families paying mortgages, that's good news.
Persuading banks to cut interest rates is one thing, but convincing the Australian Democrats to support the sale of Telstra is another. And Senator Cheryl Kernot says she's prepared to risk a double dissolution on the issue.
The Senate may give the government a trigger, but the Prime Minister chooses when and if he wants to use it.
But she does hold out one olive branch, saying the government's industrial relations legislation will eventually pass the Senate with some amendments. Peter Harvey, Canberra.
In the news ahead, winning the war against the fruit fly.
And the victim of a road rage attack.
I'm stunned, I still am.
You could make big dollars on your car. Monday, the best places, the best ways, and the tricks of the trade for selling or upgrading a vehicle. And visit Brisbane's haunted school. We find out how the students and teachers cope with their ghostly associate. Extra, 5:30 Monday on 9.
For around 6% more money, Pajero gives you over 40% more power. Please consider.
I'm as fit as a fiddle. I could live till I'm 90.
Oh.
What do you mean, oh?
Well, I was going through our finances and I started to think about our situation. To me, looks like we can only afford to live till we're 70 or so.
What? Even with the kids off our hands?
Yeah, well, that's all our super allows for.
National Mutual. Securing the most important future in the world. Yours.
So anyway, I said to succeed today, you need a vision. I said you need the best technology.
Precisely.
To give you the best image.
Precisely.
You need an Epson, I said.
Precisely.
I mean, look at that. So realistic. You listening to me?
Best technology, best image, so realistic. And you're about to say there's an Epson printer to suit everyone.
And there's... Precisely. Epson.
Every year, British Airways looks after the hopes and dreams of 30 million people. British Airways, the world's favourite airline.
Gero's variable rate shock absorbers give you the choice of 3 settings. Other four-wheel drives don't give you a choice at all. Please consider.
Raylene Boyle in the toughest race of her life.
Killing off all those horrible little goobies that are in there trying to kill me.
Her exclusive story. Also, music lessons from Mark Knopfler.
When you start picking, more like a piano.
60 Minutes tonight.
Smoking will be banned on all Australian-operated international flights from next month. The federal government says the decision has been made on health grounds. A Brisbane mother battling to keep food on the table has asked other families to dig a little deeper for this year's Smith Family Appeal. At the launch of the Winter Warmth Appeal, Cheryl told how she couldn't have coped without help.
And if it wasn't for these organisations, I'd say most people would be out in the street, and just thank goodness for the Smith family.
An industrial cold room provided the background for the launch, helping those more fortunate to realise what it's like to be homeless in winter. Organisers hope to raise $3 million.
An ugly incident of road rage on the Ipswich motorway has left a Brisbane driver with a broken arm and cuts. He's lucky to be alive after a passenger from another car jumped out and bashed him while stopped at traffic lights.
Of all the hazards encountered in 25 years of driving, Greg never imagined he'd be attacked with a hammer by another road user.
I'm stunned. I still am. I'm still shaking. I'm in fear. I just watch every car on the road around me.
The invalid pensioner was driving to pick up his son from Goodna on Friday afternoon when he gave a rude gesture to a blue hatchback travelling slowly in the right lane on the Ipswich motorway. When he stopped at the Goodna off-ramp traffic lights, Greg was confronted with an enraged man trying to smash his window with a hammer attached to a tyre lever. The man in his early 30s opened the door and attacked Greg.
Hit me 4 or 5 times with the hammer.
His right arm was split open and broken, his thigh bruised, and another blow just missed his eye.
I'm extremely lucky not to be dead, I think. Another inch I could have lost my sight or been hit in the temple.
Dazed and bleeding profusely and fearing for his life, Greg drove through a red light just to get away. Goodna detectives want to hear from anyone who saw the attack.
Well, it's certainly rare to have a reaction of this extreme. It's savage.
Scott Bevan, National 9 News.
The battle to rid North Queensland's fruit industry of the papaya fruit fly goes on. But help is at hand. The government's spending another $15 million this year to hopefully reopen the way for valuable exports.
If these papaya fruit flies break out from our far north, the results would be devastating.
It's going to become a national disaster.
But good management and luck have been with scientists in the front line. The war is being won. Fly infestations decimated.
Yes, 2 to 3% of the original population is left.
In just 8 months, the eradication program has seen the fly population forced back towards coastal centres.
We've been very, very lucky.
It certainly makes it a whole lot easier now for us to eradicate the fly.
There's still concern the flies could get into large tracts of North Queensland rainforest. That would require a huge program to fight the insects. The main form of control, sterilising the males. The bill, more than $50 million.
Obviously, if that's what has to be done, we have to do that.
Well, some people ask me, do you give them vasectomies? But no, they use a radiation source.
Even with the sterilisation program on hold, upwards of $15 million will be spent attacking the papaya flies in their remaining habitats this year. The General waging the war, confident now of what growers and governments first believed was impossible.
I have no doubt, technically, we can eradicate the fly.
Still, it will take another 3 years and ongoing monitoring before fruit can once again be exported from our north. Spencer Jolly, National 9 News.
A mystery flight for 400 passengers on board a Virgin 747. They were flying from London to Los Angeles. Instead, they made an emergency landing on a remote Canadian island after one of the passengers suffered a heart attack. Then the flight was delayed while an engine damaged during touchdown was repaired. For 10 hours, passengers huddled together in a hangar as the temperature dropped below freezing.
Well, it's an extra adventure. I didn't expect it.
Surprisingly, the flight number was 007. To sport now, and a rift in the Queensland Origin camp bomber.
Mike, there's no truth to those rumours. That's according to Fatty and a touring car tangle in South Australia.
the way I pictured it just.
She was tempted to a moment of passion.
Where you been, Gwen?
Oh, I was at the library.
Now she's running for her life.
You were here that night. So were you.
A spellbinding premiere. Judicial consent tonight, 8:30 on 9.
There's a new worker on the job. A one-tonner with an unlimited kilometre warranty for 2 years. And a 2.6 litre fuel-injected engine. And that's the most powerful in its class. That's right, the most powerful. The new Mazda Bravo, built to work.
The right response demands thought and action. People who are old enough to have the experience, young enough to have the energy, ambitious enough to innovate, intelligent enough to know how. St. George Commercial Banking. Small enough to respond, big enough to count on.
The powerful 1.8-litre Hyundai Elantra with ABS brakes, four-wheel discs and a 3-year 100,000k warranty for a limited time, only $22,990. Drive away, no more to pay. Wouldn't you rather have a Elantra?
To book your Gold Coast holiday, contact a travel agent or phone the Queensland Government Travel Centre on 13 1801.
There's a new worker on the job. A one-tonner with an unlimited kilometre warranty for 2 years. And a 2.6 litre fuel-injected engine. And that's the most powerful in its class. That's right, the most powerful. The new Mazda Bravo, built to work.
Tonight's Sports Report is proudly brought to you by your local Ford dealer.
Good evening. On the eve of Origin 2, Queensland coach Paul Vaughton has dismissed claims of friction in the ranks. For New South Wales, the trio suffering the flu have been declared certain starters, even though they haven't fully recovered yet.
After being locked out of their training venue yesterday, the Blues had to contend with drizzling rain today. That did not help the flu-affected trio of Mullins, Brasher and Wishart, although that depended on who you spoke to.
Definitely by tomorrow night they'll be 100%.
I've got to be honest, I'm not 100% over the flu, but still a concern locked Jim Dimmick, who again missed a session because of a knee injury.
I just, precaution, didn't want to train in case, anything happened to the leg.
And while New South Wales sorted out their problems, it was an article in a Sydney newspaper which caused some surprise in the Queensland camp. Last year's fullback Robbie O'Davis, who was dropped after Origin 1, claims this year's team lacks spirit.
In saying that the feeling isn't like it was in '95, he's exactly right, and we all feel that, but that was a different circumstances, a different year.
Jason Smith appears to be over the flu, while Billy Moore put his groin strain into perspective.
Obviously you're desperate for stories if you focus on my groin.
Sean Lawson in Sydney, National 9 News.
On the premiership front, Souths and Penrith completed the first half of a split round 10. Nine's coverage after the news at 6:30. Last night, Wests ran in 4 tries to beat the Western Reds 22-8.
Pretty well, Langman, what a try! Langman has been intercepted by Kevin McGee.
On the footy scoreboard, Wynnum and Port Moresby notched wins in the Channel 9 Cup. Steve Kernahan became the leading goal scorer in Aussie Rules Origin, helping South Australia to a 35-point victory over Western Australia. In QAFL, victory to Mount Gravatt and Kedron Grange in the 2 matches played today. In soccer, success to Beenleigh and Lions, while City and Nerang shared the points. In local rugby fixtures, West beat Brothers, Jeeps thrashed Uni, East got home against Sunnybank, and the Barbarians scored an upset win over Premiers Souths. And in an ominous sign for next week's test, Wales has been humbled by the ACT 69-30. Meantime, an anxious wait for Queensland's test hopefuls prior to the announcement of the Wallaby team. The national selectors named their squad later tonight after New South Wales won the return State of the Union clash 29-25 in Sydney.
With test selection and state pride on the line, this was serious business. The Reds off to a dream start.
Wide, Herbert and June. First try for the Reds.
7-0 Queensland, but when Connors and Gavin tangled, Burke kicked the Blues' first points. John Eales replied, then a late charge on Tyrone Mandrusiak saw him stretch Queensland's lead to 10 points. Both sets of forwards then contriving a football stadium mosh pit for big Garrick Morgan.
They can't do that.
13-9 the Reds at half-time. 2 minutes after the restart, Matthew Burke created the platform for Bowen's first try that gave New South Wales the lead for the first time.
Waratahs hit the lead.
Down a point, Queensland hit back. Connors kicked for tune, pretty to watch.
Second try.
Foley to Morgan looked arguably forward, but it was good enough for the visitors to lead 25-14 with 29 minutes left. But it was the Waratahs with more in reserve. Michael Bryle dived over, their defence crunching Ben Tune out of Test contention. Campisi's chances of a recall enhanced in the lead-up to Bowen's second try.
Under the sticks.
Burke's penalty at the death, confirming the Blues' State of the Union supremacy. Steve Haddon, National 9 News.
World champion Kieran Perkins has again had to play second fiddle to Daniel Kowalski. Competing for the first time since his disappointing Olympic selection trials, Perkins was always behind in a 400-metre short course race in Melbourne. Kowalski touched more than 2 seconds in front, with Perkins just hanging on for second. A major upset at the French Open tennis with the defeat of 4th seed Michael Chang. Veteran Stefan Edberg dismissed the American in 4 sets to advance to the 4th round.
7 years after Michael Chang upstaged Stefan Edberg to win the title, the pair returned to Court Central. The Swede had won 11 of 19 meetings, Chang the last 4.
Looks like it got the baseline.
The 4th seed took the first set and had an early break in set 2, aiming to pin the Swede.
Cat and mouse.
Next point, the 30-year-old stood up to Chang's challenge.
Oh, reflexes stood his ground.
So much to savour as this was shaping up as a mighty match.
Oh, yeah. And that's peak. And he says, come on, Michael, give me a break.
Edberg got it, stringing 9 straight games and rolling out his serve and volley specials.
Oh, yes.
Chang fought back to force a tiebreak in the 4th, but Edberg pumped himself to help settle an old debt.
You're going to think about these matches, I'm sure about that, and it's such a wonderful feeling being out there when you feel good. 2.5
years ago, Chile's Marcelo Rios was ranked 549 in the world. Now he's number 10 with a bullet.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what
the 20-year-old was in superb touch, upending fellow left-hander Peter Corda in straight sets.
Even that's too much.
Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Damon Hill looks set to extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship after dominating practice for tonight's Spanish Grand Prix. The Williams team of Hill and Jacques Villeneuve make up the front row, with Michael Schumacher and John Alesi next on the grid.
For the last 2 races, Schumacher has secured pole, but Hill prevented a German hat-trick with a record qualifying lap time for tonight's big race. Hill was nearly half a second faster than teammate Jacques Villeneuve, with Schumacher 3rd. A lone British flag already flies in Barcelona, but after Hill's efforts, the Union Jack is likely to see plenty of action. Coverage from 10:40 this evening. In the United States, the NASCAR titles hit Michigan, and while no one was hurt in the metal melee, a number of vehicles needed roadside assistance.
Here they come. There we go.
A bumpy ride also for drivers in round 9 of the Touring Car Championship. There were spills all day as cars and competitors were pushed to and then past breaking point. All the accidents involved some of the biggest names, with arch rivals Craig Lowndes and John Bowe fighting to the finish. Lowndes' earlier 2 wins wrapped up the championship for the Holden Hotshot. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
In hockey, Australia won the Four Nations tournament at Comesley this afternoon. The Kookaburras beat India in the final. Rookie Queensland forward Baden Choppy had double reason to celebrate, later named in the squad bound for Atlanta.
Australia's first goal came from a penalty corner.
Lewis, Stacey, goal! Beautiful hit from Stacey, powerful.
In the second half, the Kookaburras again found the net. This time it included a sleight of hand.
Stacey was the feint and Godoy scores.
The Brisbane Bullets continued their slide down the NBL ladder with a 19-point loss to Melbourne Magic last night. They never recovered from a dreadful opening, trailing by 28 at half-time.
After a dressing down from coach Dave Ingham, the Bullets restricted Magic to just 8 points in the third quarter. But the damage had been done. Magic home 91-72. Netball, Australia trounced South Africa 77-44 in a test in Perth last night. Aussie captain Vicky Wilson celebrated her first game back from a knee reconstruction with 45 goals. And that's it in 9 Sport, and the Origin countdown has well and truly begun.
Who's counting? You. Paul's results in this week's winning numbers are 6, 7, 17, 25, 27, 29, and the supplementary this week is 2. Weather for the week ahead is next.
Then a trip down memory lane.
This week on A Current Affair, tobbing in the dole cheats who work but still claim welfare. And the phones are running hot.
What was the person's name?
Some say it's un-Australian.
We're penalising them so that we can get government savings. That's immoral.
But listen to the whistleblowers.
They're getting something for nothing.
And they're not hard to find.
Gee, it's good to see a bloke working. You're still working, though. Yeah.
Plus a warning to all parents.
Don't see a future for my son.
How even the best of families can be torn apart when a teenager suddenly goes off the rails.
This is the last day they'll be hearing from me.
A Current Affair.
Hey, guess what? It's half-year clearance time at your Ford dealer. And they're clearing every Festiva in stock. Trio's a racy little number. Fuel injection, 4-speaker stereo, and sports cloth trim. It's Australia's top seller, you know. During half-year clearance, you could grab one for $14,488. Drive away, no more to pay. You'll never do better than that. But only till June 30, so hang about and you'll miss out. See your Ford dealer now. Tell them Dick sent you.
If you're exhausted, race into Midas fast and get a great muffler deal. Commodores start at $39, Falcons at $49, Toyotas $59, plus many, many more. All with the Midas nationwide guarantee. So for a great muffler deal starting at $39, Midas are the experts.
This morning, your dog bit a personal injury lawyer. Your daughter showed you her latest piercing. Ouch. You backed into a police car. Good one. Then you made a cup of tea with Tetley All-Rounders. Now with 3,000 holes in every bag for an even more flavoursome cup of tea. Wasn't such a bad day after all, was it? Tetley All-Rounders. Lose yourself in the flavour.
Toyota gives you big business buying power. Trade up to a new Toyota now and get big factory bonuses. Until June 30, your Toyota dealer gives you big business buying power.
Oh, what a feeling.
See your local Toyota dealer.
If you're exhausted, race into Midas fast and get a great muffler deal. Starting at $39 with a Midas nationwide guarantee. So for a great muffler deal, Midas are the experts.
Our surf lifesavers braved icy water and overcast conditions at Kurrawa Beach on the Gold Coast today, demonstrating their rescue skills to more than 150 international police officers on the coast for an Asia-Pacific conference. And not far away, a reminder of the dangers in our waters, this 3.5-metre tiger shark found washed up on Nobby Beach. The average temperature in the southeast today, 23 degrees. It's 19 in Brisbane at the moment. The cloud in coastal districts has produced a few showers, the rest of the state mostly cloud-free. The high in the Tasman continues to direct the moist southeast to easterlies into the state. It will remain stationary with a continuation of the current weather pattern until at least Tuesday. Mostly fine interstate tomorrow, though rain periods for Adelaide. Showers in the state's north, but fine for the Isa. Fine for Bundaberg, showers in Rockhampton, Gladstone and Maryborough. Cloudy with showers on both coasts. Possible showers for Ipswich, mostly fine for Toowoomba. Southeast to northeast winds on the bay, seas up to 1 metre. The possibility of overnight and morning showers for Brisbane, 15 tonight up to 23 tomorrow. And a clearing change ahead with fine weather forecast into next week. Great weather for the in-laws, Mike.
Yes, it will be, yes. Brisbane's George Street tripped back in time to the colonial era for the annual Heritage Festival today. Held in one of the city's most historic precincts, the Colonial George Street Festival recreates the sights and sounds and smells of a bygone era. The skills and crafts which were alive when Brisbane was an infant colony were revived, and of course there was the appropriate tucker.
We got pea and ham soup, damper and billy tea today, and the billy tea with beautiful gum leaves in. Good stuff, mate.
And that's our news to the moment. Looks good, doesn't it?
It does. Good night.
It's another day at the office.
Ooh, look at this little beauty.
In the toughest job in the world.
This is a very dangerous situation.
The hunt is on for a rogue crocodile.
You reckon he's come over to talk about him back?
The Crocodile Hunter return to the wild, premieres 8:30 Tuesday on 9.
Hello.
Hi, how is he?
Better. Looking forward to seeing you. When you can.
Tell him I'll be there tomorrow.
Can you manage that?
I've cancelled a couple of things. I'll finish up the important stuff before I leave.
Not tonight.
No. In the morning. I'll be fresh. The roads will be empty.
It's a long drive.
It's a pleasant drive.
When shall we expect you?
I'll call when I get close.
The all-new BMW 5 Series. Sheer driving pleasure.
You can't go on working like this.
Look, just be patient.
Look, it's only that I'm worried about you. Are you sure you're looking after yourself?
I am. I am looking after myself.
Healthy choice is looking after yourself.
Praise the oil! Hallelujah! Castrol GTX2! We fought temptation, we pulled through, protected by Castrol GTX2. Oils ain't oils.
Hello?
Hi, is he awake?
Yes, and waiting. Where are you?
Look out the window.
The all-new BMW 5 Series. Sheer driving pleasure.
We've got the team. Now can we save the series? 7:30 Monday, it's do or die for the Maroons. Origin 2 live on 9. Go Queenslander. Sunday Night Football, proudly brought to you by the star of the new Optus National Flat Rates.
Tonight, the Penrith Panthers host the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Your commentators are Ray Warren and Peter Sterling.
And welcome now to Penrith Football Stadium.